when people talk about Israel and Palestine as though both sides are equally to blame for a lack of a political settlement, I always suggest playing a little game. Take ideas which are generally considered uncontroversial in relation to Israel, like the right to self-determination, like the right to exist as a homeland for an oppressed people, like the right to have control over one's own borders, like the right to self-defense, and then apply them to Palestine. Suddenly it becomes a much more sticky point, doesn't it? The loss of any and all civilian life is an affront to progressive values everywhere. And for that sentiment to mean anything, the left has got to be capable of calling out asymmetry in conflict, and not just obscure facts on the ground with blanket condemnations. We have a responsibility to unearth the truth behind headlines, which either conceal inequalities or present the loss of Palestinian life as a proportionate and legitimate response to non-state acts of violence. Since January 2009, according to the Israeli human rights organisation B'Tselem, 91 Israeli civilians have been killed by Palestinians. But by contrast, over 3,400 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli security forces in the same time period. The data, however, doesn't include the fatalities from the IDF's latest bombardment of Gaza over the last weekend. So, what can we draw from this? That a conflict between a nation-state with a defence budget of $18.6 billion and a politically, geographically and militarily fragmented people who've been under occupation, disenfranchised and displaced for the past 70 years is not a conflict of equals. As Benjamin Netanyahu tries to put together a governing coalition for his 5th term in office, the need for progressives across the world to stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people and Israelis seeking a just and peaceful solution is more urgent than ever. During his election campaign, Netanyahu promised to officially annex the West Bank in a bid to woo right-wing voters. The IDF, meanwhile, continues to fire live ammunition at Palestinian civilians on the Gaza border during the weekly March of Return protests. And Donald Trump's much-vaunted deal of the century looks unlikely to secure either the right of return for Palestinian refugees or the withdrawal of Israeli forces from occupied territories. While 60% of the West Bank is under exclusive Israeli control, illegal settlements multiply and receive state support for infrastructure, and the blockade on Gaza remains, there cannot be said to be a peace process or indeed a two-state solution in any meaningful sense. Millions of Palestinian people live in occupied territory and are directly affected by policies shaped in the Israeli Knesset. And yet, they lack the political rights which would mean that they had a say in the decision-making that impacts their daily existence. The live issue for Palestinians isn't just about the recognition of statehood, it's about the fundamental tenets of citizenship. So, what can we do about it? Well, you can donate, you can divest, or you can protest. You can donate to Medical Aid for Palestinians, a charity which provides essential medical services in the West Bank, in East Jerusalem, and also in Gaza. Or you can divest, which means supporting the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement. That means that you don't buy goods or services from brands like SodaStream, Puma and HP, the computer brand and not the condiment, just to make that one clear. All of these brands either profit in some way from the continuing dispossession of Palestinians, or they provide essential services like security or IT logistics to the IDF. So by boycotting them, you make a really clear and principled stand against the continuing occupation and dispossession of Palestinian people. Boycotts, divestments and sanctions all played a crucial role in bringing down apartheid in South Africa. It's one of the most important tactics we have in our arsenal when it comes to showing international solidarity. We brought down one unjust regime and we can do it again. And of course, you can protest. So this weekend, Saturday the 11th of May 2019, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign have called a national demonstration for Palestine in central London from 12 p.m. So go down, show your support, take your vuvuzelas and your homemade placards. It's going to be lit.